Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of the Tools Friday series with FIXITGEARWARE-SECURITY. On today's episode, we'll be talking about confusion dependencies and how hackers really exploit this vulnerability, or how hackers tend to launch this type of attack in compromising organizations and large computers which are used by end users. So before we get started, I would like to know how you're doing, how things has been going on for you. I hope you've been able to scale through in whatever difficulties and challenges you're facing. And for those who are still yet to have that job offers, I wish you well, and I hope you continue being steadfast and strong. Do not give up. It's always dark before it gets brighter. So while you're still waiting for that great opportunity which you're looking for, or that perfect job role, keep putting on the efforts. Keep studying, keep practicing if you're into ethical hacking, and try and read as much as possible in terms of books and material resources that can always help you to refresh your knowledge and as well increase your understanding on various subject matters. So with that being said, let's head on to talk about today's episode on the Tools Friday series. Before we talk about the tools for today, let's first of all understand what dependencies confusion attack is all about. Now, let's say you are this programmer here. You wrote an application, and this application you wrote, it's an application that is able to allow a user to view Excel data or data that are compiled using spreadsheets. And to be able to view those type of data using your application, certain dependencies or packages are required to be installed on the end user's device before they can be able to use this application with its full functionalities to access whatever data they have stored on their mobile device or computing device efficiently. So let's say when you wrote this application, you have two types of repositories where you host the necessary package that this application is required to satisfy before properly running efficiently on the end user's device. Now, here is a repository. On this repository, you have your own private repository where you can install this package that is necessary. Now, let's say in your private repository, you installed a version. For example, let's say you want to use a package, a Python package that we all know as Excel.js. So this package is required to be installed on the end user device for them to be able to, view data that are related to Excel sheet. Now, in your private repository, you have the version 1.2, assuming you are the one that is responsible in maintaining that package. However, in your public repository, you did not update the version, right? Now, this hacker here has a tool, scanned your public repository and discovered somewhat the name of the package on that public repository, which is required in this private repository, right? Now, he discovers that you were able to update the private repository, but the public repository was not updated by you. So here on the private, you have the 1.2, but on the public, you have 0.8. Now, what does this hacker does is to now write a package that is a higher version, since the name on the public repository is the same as the name of the package on the private repository, right? So what the hacker does is just writing a package with the same name but a different version. However, the version that this hacker is, publishing via either npm or Python packages, it's vulnerable or has malicious code in them. Now, when this user here tries to download this application will need these requirements to be satisfied. So if like I said, if the application requires a Python package like XLJS, so it will go and connect to this repository, okay, and try to download that package to be installed on the end user device. So how does this communication happen? Now, when you try to install, let's say, a Python package, right? A set of rules are created in a file known as requirement.txt. Those set of rules are rules that specifies the necessary package that are required or that needs to be satisfied before this user is able to use this application. So when you now run pip install -r requirements.txt, what you're trying to say is the pip tool, which is of course belongs to Python, should connect to the public and private repository and download the necessary package in order to be able to run this application and send it to the end user's mobile device or computing system and install them before this application can be able to run efficiently. So when pip install connects, it scans the private and public repository and discover that on the private, the name on the private is the same name on the public. However, on the private, we have 1.2, but on the public, we have 2.8. Now, what does pip does? Pip will compare the two and say, okay, 2.8 is the latest one. So I would rather download the 2.8, which belongs to the public repository, which of course is handled or written by this malicious hacker, and pull it to this end user's device and install it. Now, your private repository would be ignored because the name on the private is the same name on the public. However, on the public is a higher version and on the private is a lower version. So people like say, okay, I do not need to take the obsolete version. I need to install the latest version. This one that was written by the hacker. Now, after this has been installed, when these users now run this application, the application will run efficiently. However, because the Python package installed is a malicious one, it now gives this hacker a backdoor. Okay, so now the hacker is able to access this end user's device while still, enabling the end user to access this application efficiently. And this is what a dependency confusion attack is all about. Now we have explained this. There are various ways to, remediate this type of vulnerability. But since it's not the scope of this training, we would not be going further with that. But one of the solutions is that you should ensure that you provide specific rules that whenever the user tries to call the packages that are required or that are necessary for the program to execute, they should strictly only download packages from the private repository, which is of course the one which this developer is maintaining. Okay, so with that being said, let's head on to describe the tools for today. So for today's tools, we'll be talking about Dependency Confusion Checker Tool. This tool was written by RDZP. It is a tool that analyzes Python requirement text files and JavaScript-based applications of supplied batch domains in a text file. So what are these batch domains? These are domains that has JavaScript extensions or Python extensions, which of course you have obtained from a recon process and saved in a batch file. So when you cut this batch URLs using the dependency checker tool, it passes these dependencies files and scans a public repository, which in this case will either be npm or pypi packages, depending on what code these files are hosted on. So if it's a JavaScript, then it's going to scan public repositories of npm. And if it's a Python, it's going to scan public repositories of pypi. Now, once it scans through, it will feed out on your terminal the list of domains that are vulnerable to dependency confusion attack. However, the developer of this tool made a few mistakes in the code base, so we pulled the file itself, made some few changes, and these new changes by us at FIXITGEARWARE-SECURITY allows users to not only scan batch text files, but also enable the users to scan single domains using the echo command. Now, in this case, you can consider this as a recon process because when we try to scan a live domain, it has to crawl the page of that specific domain and pull out the href links, which of course are embedded in the code of that domain. So once these are pulled out, we can now use them as additional recon files to test for other vulnerabilities which we are very familiar with. So on how to get this tool, we will be publishing it on our GitHub repository, and we'll be sharing the link later on for you to download and use it. But for the meantime, we will demonstrate this tool right now for you to see how you can use it and how it works. Okay. Now, to do that, let's go over to our Kali Linux machine. So here is our Kali Linux machine, and this is the tool known as Confusion Checker. So what do? We open our terminal. Okay. Now, we've already installed the requirement.txt, and all we need to do is now to cd to our desktop. Okay, now how do we use this tool for a batch text file? It's very simple. We'll say cat to cut the file. Now let's use a text file which we have on our system, apple1.txt. Then we say pipeline. Then we'll say Python, since it is a Python tool. Then we'll say tilde, the full part of the tool, which is the home. We'll say desktop. Then we'll say Confusion Checker /check.py. Now, once we hit enter, see what's going to happen right now. It will be scanning each of those domains in the text file to, check if there are dependencies that are in those domains. And of course, if those dependencies are vulnerable or can be exploited to dependency attack. So now the process is completed, right? So we clear screen. Now let's now demonstrate how you can use this on a live domain. To use this on a live domain, we say echo https www.facebook.com, then pipeline, same way, desktop, confusion checker, right, /check.py. So whenever you see the word echo, it means I want you to display the result of whatever commands that follows up after the echo command in the terminal. Okay, so that's what it means. And here is the domain which we are targeting in this case, and this is the full part of the tool. So we hit enter again. Now it says permission denied. Okay, now do you know the reason why this happened? I will tell you why. Because we skipped the Python. We're supposed to run Python. Okay, then we'll say Python and we hit enter. Now we wait for a few minutes. Good. Now you can see the result is popped out. Now when you look at this place, you can see vuln, which means vulnerable, but there is nothing like for now we can see here. But if you come here right now, you can see there are href links. Okay. So these href links are like, these are like JavaScript for the JS, JavaScript, CSS, right? Now, this can be considered as an additional recon information. You can copy these domains, okay, and try to now use your, what's it called? Your Bob suite to, further test other vulnerabilities by sending a request to those links and see what the output or the outcome will be. And that's how you use the dependency confusion tool, which we just described. This tool will be unveiling it on our GitHub repository. Like we said, it's not our tool, so we would be publishing the domain link of the GitHub account that owns this code base. The reason why we are publishing it on our platform instead of sending the request as a pull request is because, one, the author of this tool would not know them in person, and two, it's not a popular repository, so it's quite a dangerous thing to do. Should in case if something goes wrong or goes bad, we might be held responsible for supporting such persons which we do not know who they are, right? So to be on a safer side, we'll be putting this repository on our GitHub account, but the author of this tool will be tagging them. While you clone this repository, be rest assured that it does not belong to us, okay? It's not our tool. We are not the author of this code. We only refactored this code and added some little tweaks, okay? So with that, we have come to an end of this week's episode. If you find this video interesting, please do not hesitate to give us a like by hitting that thumbs up button, subscribe by hitting that subscribe button, and push that notification bell so you'll be the first to get notified when next we make another video on Tools Friday series with FIXITGEARWARE-SECURITY. Thanks for watching and see you next week. Bye for now.